Okay, so we're gonna get on to carving the neck now that we've got everything all attached and all ready to go here. And the first thing we're gonna do is we gotta do some layout. So what we're gonna do is we're just gonna freehand kind of draw our heel here. And we'll just get the basic cutout of it, and then we can refine it as we go in the final kind of stages of the carving and in scraping and whatnot. Okay, so one thing we have to go from the points coming off of the cutaways, and it's got to be centered on our center line here, and we're just going to kind of go for a rounded effect. And you can use a template for this or whatever, but I find I just doing it freehand, I can get it to where I need it to be, and like I said, refine it later. So it's your choice, however you want to do it. Okay, so we're looking pretty good right there. Okay, and then we want to do the same down here for the volute. And we've already got some lines kind of started, and you want to come off of the where the headstock starts to flare out here, those points there. And then you just kind of want to come down here, and you want to mark it just like this, just around to where it starts to curve into the neck profile. Kind of round it at the tip here again. It's like a little heel basically on the other side of the other end of the neck. Okay, so we got that laid out, and we've got our center line here. Now there's a lot of different ways to carve the neck. Some guys like to use spoke shaves only, and some guys like to sand them. Some guys use routers and route the basic profile and then clean it up. I like to use a rasp, and there's a certain technique that I have to get it to where I almost need it to be, and then I clean it up with scrapers and kind of refine it with scrapers and sanders and stuff. But to lay it out, to do it with a rasp, what I do is I'll start with an angled cut here. So I've drawn a line down the side of the neck here, and it's just a reference line to make sure that to tell me, it kind of just darkens up the area where the binding meets the neck, just so I know that I'm not digging into the binding. I want to keep the binding at this thickness that it's at right now as much as possible. So I want to try and concentrate my efforts just on the neck itself and not the binding section here. So I've just made that line to kind of darken it up, so whenever I'm rasping, I know not to go past that point. Okay, so now that I've got the line on the side of the neck here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to measure down from the edge here down to the center point, and I'm going to divide that by 4. And you'll see why I'm going to do that in a minute. But I'll take that measurement here, and looks like we got 24 millimeters. So divided into 4, that's 6 millimeters. So we're going to mark 6 millimeters off of the center line here. And every 6 millimeters, we're going to put a mark. So I can get a little bit more light on this subject here. There we go. Okay, so we got 6 millimeters, and then we got 12 millimeters, and we got 18 millimeters. Okay, so we've made our three points here, here, and here. And we want to do the same on the other side. And we just want to measure just to be sure that it's the same. And yeah, it's the same. So we're going to go 6 millimeters, 6 millimeters. I'm going to grab a smaller ruler too. That's just a little bit intrusive, that one. Okay, so 6 millimeters, 12 millimeters, and 18 millimeters. Okay, here we have our marks there. Now what we're going to do is we're going to go down to the widest part of our fretboard, or of our neck here. We're going to do the same thing. So we can take that measurement, and that looks to be just about, looks like 32. So 32 divided by 4 is 8. So we know we gotta measure out 8 millimeters from the center line here, and on every 8 millimeters we gotta make a mark. Okay, so 8, 16, 24. Same over here. 8, 16, and 24. Okay, now what we're going to do is we're going to take a ruler and we're going to join all of these points up so that we have, I guess it would be 7 lines going down the fretboard, or going down the back of the neck, sorry. And they're actually going to flare out as the neck flares out too. And that's important because what's going to happen is we're going to end up with a tighter radius down here and kind of a wider radius down here just because of the taper in the fretboard, and we want to make sure that that's pretty consistent. So I've got a handy dandy Incra ruler. They're nice and flexible, so I'm going to run these lines right up the curve of the heel here, and I'm just going to push it down, mark it into place. I mean, you can use whatever method to transfer these lines to the heel, but it's really not that important with the heel, because the heel we're going to go back, and after we get the rough curvature of the neck, we're going to go back and do the heel and the volute, kind of refine them. Okay, so we got our lines joined here. I'll extend the thread, or the lead in our pencil here. Just our line. And we're just going to draw the line up to the volute, because we're not going to be taking off any of this material here. I'm actually going to draw another line on the volute at the top of this hump here too, because this volute will take on a rounded profile kind of like this, so might as well draw that on there. Okay, so we're gonna line up all these lines same way I just did here with that. We do the rest of the other 6 of them, and then I'm gonna put this thing in the vise, and we're gonna dig out some of our cutting tools and get to work on actually rasping it out. And you'll be able to see why I've actually drawn these lines on. And yeah, so I'll get this thing ready to go. Okay, so I've got all these lines marked out in the back of our neck here, and if we remember, we marked our line here on the side. So now what we're going to do is, I've got a couple tools here. I got a rasp here, a pretty aggressive one. I got a whole mess of different types of scrapers, burnished and straight ones. You're going to want the burnished ones to take off some of the bigger material, and then the straight ones to do some of the finessing. And I've also got a flat spoke shave here in case I feel the need to use that. Okay, so now back to our lines here. So we got our top line here, and it's running right the length of the neck, and we got the line on the top side of our neck as well. So now what we're going to do is we want to try and rasp from this line to this line. So this is going to signify the angle that we're going to rasp on. So we're just going to take our rasp, and make sure this is nice and tight in here. And we're just going to go at this, this rasp will take off a lot of material at the start, but that's what we want to get our rough shape going. So now you can see I'm trying to follow the general angle that this is going to give me by rasping between these 2 points. And once I get to these lines, I want to stop, and I don't want to go any further with it, because I want to make sure that these remain nice and straight. So our lines are nice and straight, so we want to use those as a definite guide. So once you hit that line, you got to make sure you stop. When we get up into this area here, I'll use kind of the rounded part of the rasp to get in here and kind of get to where we need to be, and the same on the bottom. What we'll do is we'll do this whole length here, we'll flip the instrument around, and we'll do the bottom and do the same thing. Okay, see, nice and light with the rasp. You don't have to go heavy with it. And you're just basically trying to get this corner off at this point. To note too, when you're working with a really aggressive rasp like this, you want to kind of rasp it. First you don't want to put much pressure on it at all, but you also want to rasp it with the rasp sitting at about a 45-degree angle, and it will take the material off a lot smoother than trying to go perpendicular with it. That way it's just tearing out a little bit too much, and you just get a little bit of a nicer cut with the rasp on an angle like that. So now you can see getting down to the volute and the headstock here. I just took it down to the line, and I'm just going to go nice and light here. Most of this is going to be done. It's going to be finally shaped with scrapers and sandpaper. You know, this is just to get the bulk of the material off here. Get it on a nice straight plane, going on a nice straight plane for us. And that's pretty good there. So now you can see we're on our line going all the way down here, right down to the heel. And we're just going to clean this up a little bit here. Not quite to our line on the side here. Okay, good there. Okay, we're looking pretty good there. So now that we got that out of the way, what we want to do is we want to draw another reference line on the top here, because we've rasped away the first reference line. And not just that, but we want to change the angle here. So, you know, we got our second line here, and we want to make it on a bit more of a steeper slope. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to measure out about a 1/4 inch from the binding, and that will give us our next angle. So I'll measure out a 1/4 inch here, down here, 1/4 inch, down here, 1/4 inch. And now what this is going to do is it's going to give us another counter angle. So what we're going to end up with is almost like a, I don't know what, not like a hexagon, but generally like a hexagonal type shape. And then we're going to go back and clean up all of the corners with scrapers and stuff and get an actual round profile to it. So now that we got this 1/4 inch line marked, we're just going to actually mark, or the points marked, we're going to mark a line between the two. And that will give us our reference point for our next angle. It's going to be a little bit tough to mark on here because it's a rough surface. But you just need a basic idea anyways. This is just a basic rough shape. And then of course we want to start rasping between this line and this line here to give us our next angle. So once again, nice and soft to take this corner down. Because if you don't hit that corner soft, it's going to tear it right out, and then you're going to run a chance of actually taking a chunk out, and that you don't want to do. You want to keep these, you know, you want to keep them as clean as possible. You get a chunk out of there, and then trying to scrape to that chunk, it makes a mess, and you know, your scraper gets caught on the pit, and it just tears it out more, and it's, you know, it can be a bit of a mess. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to do this process again, and we're going to do this until we get down to close to our center line. What we're going to do is we're not going to take this down because we want to leave where the center line is here. We want to leave about 1/8 of an inch on either side of that because of the truss rod slot that's cut in here. We've made it the minimum thickness that we possibly can. So we want to make sure that we're not taking any material off right at the center point at the back here. We want to make sure that we retain this thickness for the truss rod to, you know, to have enough material behind it in order to work properly. So we'll just keep working away at this, and we're going to flip it over into the same on the other side, and then we'll come back when we have this all roughed out, and we'll get onto the scraping of it, scraping it up to kind of clean it up. Okay, so we got the neck rasped out to roughly where we want it, and what I did is over here where we have the holes drilled for the lock nut, I just took some 120 grit sandpaper and I just kind of cleaned that up a little bit and kind of finessed it a bit with that, just because we're not going to touch this area with the scraper here, because we don't want it to dig into the edges of this counterbore that we have for these. So we're just going to concentrate on shaping the neck with this, and we're going to go back with sandpapers and stuff and do the final finessing around these areas, and some of the stuff around the heel here as well. So I've got a scraper here, and it's you know, it's a little bit flexible. I'm not sure the exact gauge of it or whatever, but it's got a burnished side on one side here, and it's got a flat side on the other. And what we're going to do is we're going to use the burnished side here first, and it's going to take more of an aggressive cut. And we're just going to clean up all of the rasp marks and stuff with the burnish side here. We're not going to go too much into flattening out the transition between the binding and the actual neck just yet. We're going to use the flat side to do that. But we're going to take our burnished edge here, and we're just going to start cleaning this up a little bit. And I usually don't use radiusing templates when I do this. I usually just go by feel. You know, I'll just kind of run my hand up the fretboard here and up the neck to, you know, kind of feel any areas that are higher, any areas that are low, and anything that I feel is too fat or whatever, I'll take some material off of there. But generally, unless the client specifically wants a certain profile on the back of the neck, I just have my way of doing it, and it's just by just a feel kind of thing. I know the way that I like them, and I find I've found over time that, you know, my preferences are a lot like most people's out there. So I tend to do like my stock instruments just like that. You know what I mean? Just by feel or whatever, unless it's, you know, unless the instrument's pre-sold and they request something different. So anyways, I'm just going to keep going away here, and eventually we'll get a nice smooth surface that we can work with. Now again, keeping with this, I've left this area, the center area here where the truss rod slot is. I've left that, so I'm just going to clean up around there. You know, try and get in and out of there. Try not to take too much material off, and just to clean up the area where the rasp has been. You know, and there's a little bit of a corner there where the rasp stopped, and we'll just lightly take that off as well. But right now we're just pretty much worrying about the rasp marks, like I said. A little bit of an issue right there. Have to look at that. But you know, what you're trying to do is just try to get everything as smooth as you possibly can, and then we're going to go back after this and we're going to actually clean it up with some sandpaper. But we want to get most of the work done here with the scraper. I'll have to switch to a smaller scraper for in this corner here, in this edge. I don't like using these things with just one hand on it. In some of the high areas you'll just be able to see just by looking down it. But once you get to the final stages of refining it, you're going to have to go by feel and touch, because you'll be able to feel something a lot easier than you'll be able to see it, you know, an imperfection or whatever. Now again, this isn't a very, it's not a very aggressive scraper. And I'm just taking a little bit off here. Hence, that's why you're not getting, you know, you're just getting tiny little curls here. You're not getting the big ones. You're just getting, you know, tiny little ones there. Excuse me. So we're going to go ahead and we're just going to keep working away at this and get it to a point, and then we're going to switch to the flat side, and we're really going to do some finessing and honing in on this to get it to our final shape. When we're done that, we'll switch to some probably 120 sandpaper, clean up the heel and the volute here, and then we'll pretty much be done with the shaping on this thing. So we'll get going after that, and we'll come back and have a look whenever it's done. Okay, so we've pretty much got this. Just turn it the proper way here. Pretty much got this where we want it with the scraper, and it's really cleaned things up. We've got a nice, even, consistent feel to it. Nice taper, and you know, as for access up to this 27th fret, I'm considering you know, taking some depth away from this heel, but I'll probably do that just with like an arc routed into the body here, and you know, just shortening the heel here a little bit. Okay, so I'm going to go at this with some sandpaper, get it down and finished, and then we can move on to I guess the next step will be we'll set our we'll set up to set the Floyd rose and drill the holes for the posts for that.